Let's do this. The button is officially pressed. Hey, everyone. Page Chewing is back with episode 51. Wow. It just keeps, just those numbers keep climbing. I am joined by, I'll let her introduce herself, my wonderful and talented co-host, Taylor. And happy belated birthday. I'm sorry I was late on it, Taylor, but happy birthday to you and many happy returns.
Totally fine. Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, it was really nice to be able to celebrate, with family all together. So just on that note, disclaimer to anyone watching this, usually I have books in the background and I'm on theme like the other two wonderful people here, but I am traveling, so we get what we get. Work with me. But I'm Taylor from the BookTube channel, Maybe Between the Pages, and I'm a co-host of Page Chewing, and I'm delighted to be here today.
We're so happy to have you. We'll take you anywhere way we can get you, Taylor, in terms of being here. So thank you. And today's episode is very special because our guest is international best-selling author of the Thieves Duology, because the second book is out. I'm sure we'll be talking a lot about that. The wonderful MJ Kuhn. MJ, thanks so much for joining us. This is awesome.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. I'm so excited to be here and chat with you guys today.
Oh yeah, no, we are stoked. And you're coming to us from Michigan, right?
Yeah, Detroit area.
Oh, Detroit, the Motor City.
Yeah, right. Not actually Detroit, but anytime I say like the city, people are like, "Where?" And I'm like, Detroit.
Close enough.
Like we all do that, right? Us suburban folks, like, well,
yeah,
I think the closest big city.
Yeah, it's on the map. Here in Toronto, we just say GTA and people get it. Like you're somewhere around Toronto when they're running around, you're kind of there, right? So
exactly, like close enough.
Well, it is so awesome to have you today. Quick side story. So your books were on my TBR for a long time. As people know, if you check my TBR, it's on there for a long time. So I moved to Braves, north of Toronto, and Chapters is a major bookstore in Canada, and I know your books are all over the place in Toronto. I live just north of Toronto, so I'm thinking, I'll just pick it up on the weekend on the way home and grab it, and I was hoping to show it off on the show. And I'm like, I go there, it's like sold out. What do you mean sold out? There's two in Berwick, and sold out. Well, but like, wow, really? Like, yeah, it's sold out. It's because your second book, I guess, at least, and people just snapped up. We don't up here. There's obviously more limited distribution as if I went about an hour south. But it's like, wow, okay, that sucks. So I guess I'll have to get it from Toronto or order it online. So I'm disappointed because I was hoping to be like the whole, be the cool kid and hold up the book and everything. But guess I gotta wait. So
it's got a gorgeous cover, so who wouldn't want to do that?
Oh yeah.
I'm so obsessed with the covers. I love when people compliment them because I had like largely nothing to do with them. So I get to just be like, oh my God, aren't they so pretty? And like, you know what I mean? It's not even weird for me to just like accept the compliment because they're not complimenting me. They're complimenting Chris McGrath, who did the cover. And they're great.
You did a great job. We're hoping to get a peek at them if you got them sitting there somewhere.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let me grab some that
absolutely,
I can
Prepared.
First one.
That's awesome.
That
is an awesome cover. She's pretty. Yeah.
And then book 2.
Oh, and congratulations.
That one speaks to me. Oh my gosh.
I love it. The only thing I had to do with this cover was I was like, well, why don't we make it green? That's it. That's the only input I had. And look what he did. He did an amazing job. So yeah.
Those are awesome covers. And congratulations, of course, on the new release. Like that's fantastic. Yeah.
I'm so excited to have the whole series out there. I'm like, oh, people could just binge read it now if they want. And like, I know people were frustrated with the cliffhanger at the end of book 1. So now I'm like, oh, well, good. Hey, there's a cliffhanger at the end of book 1.
Oh, Taylor knows me. I love cliffhangers. I love them, especially with book 1. I eat them up. So yeah, I'm all there. Oh, I can't wait to get it.
It's perfect for you then.
So listen, congratulations again on, like I said, on the second book. But so your first book, something I was thinking about when thinking about you, MJ, is that like there's a lot of authors that it takes a while for their series to catch fire, right? It's not because it's not really well written. It's just, for whatever reasons, the public doesn't catch on. The audiences catch on for a couple of books. Your first book just blew up. Just absolutely freaking blew Who the heck up? So, and that's obviously a testament to what a great writer you are. But how did it feel when that first book just like, were you kind of expecting it? Like what was your reaction? What were your thoughts? And why do you think, like, what was it that latched on and it just caught fire?
Well, it's so funny. So being completely transparent, it really didn't blow up in North America, and still hasn't. It's my buddies over in the UK, man. The UK audience, really, that's where it hit the list. The first book was in the UK. And so thank you everyone in the UK that picked it up and loved it. But yeah, I really am not sure. I know that my publisher, and here's the thing with books taking off versus books not taking off, because like some of it is obviously like if it's a good book or not, but like so much of it is luck and publisher support and all of these things where it's like, a lot of it is out of your control as the author, or just like it's at the whims of the market, right? And I think that so my UK publisher ended up getting a deal with Goldsboro, the subscription box in the UK, for their science fiction and fantasy box. And I credit that with, because it gets so much attention. People share, there's huge communities of people that get really excited about the Goldsboro subscriptions. And, you get a special edition with the sprayed edges and you know what I mean? Like book collectors love that stuff, of course, because they're gorgeous. So I fully credit that with helping me get whatever traction that I got over in the UK. And I'm so thankful for it, because it's amazing that, just when that one little partnership was able to introduce the books to so many people. And a lot of them ended up liking it, which is great.
Oh, that's phenomenal. And I mean, so with all that, and obviously you're saying as the author that it hasn't really quite blown up in North America. Just imagine the potential that it's going to come, especially now that you've finished the series essentially with 2 books. That you just have so much more play in terms of the audience that could be jumping all over the series.
Yeah, well, I've noticed a lot of people posting about book 1 now that book 2 has come out. So yeah, I'm really hopeful that it just finds its audience, and it's meant to be just like a fun read. Like, okay, my favorite like moment that I've had in like author life so far was right after book 1 came out. And I just got tagged in a tweet or something by a reader that was like, hey, I just want to let you know I've been like really depressed and having a tough year, and reading Among Thieves was the first time I have like laughed and felt like myself in months. And I was like, that's it. Like, that's it. That's the whole goal. Like, is it great if it sells a bunch of copies? Like, oh, I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to make a living. But ultimately, as long as it finds its audience and people that are reading it are able to get something from it and enjoy it, it's meant to be just fun. It's not this big, ponderous message or, what I mean? Anything. It's meant to be just a good time and a addicting ride. So yeah, but as long as it finds its audience and people that will enjoy that, I'm a happy camper.
That sounds exactly up my alley right now. I need something a little lighter, something that I can blow through. That's so exciting to me. It just jumped so high up my TBR hearing you say that.
I love it.
And
I meant to make it bingeable. That was what I wanted.
I love it. And that's so interesting to me, is to hear you speak. You clearly know what the point of the book was, what audience you're gunning for. And it's interesting to hear also the difference between the UK and the North American market and how you can break out in one and not the other. So I'm curious, as someone who has such a well-developed sense of what you've written and why you've written it, how do you find is the best way to market it? Because, you're not only an author, you're a podcaster as well. You talk to authors all the time. So you're in so many places in the book space. So do you find that marketing your book, in this way, talking in long form content, Instagram, like what do you use to get the word out?
Oh man, I use all of it, and I'm not sure if I'm doing any of it successfully. So take all of my words with a grain of salt. But yeah, so I also work in marketing for my day job. So I have like a little bit of knowledge.
Okay.
I mean, it's B2B, like so business to business marketing. So it's not like at all the same, but also it kind of is. You know what I mean? Marketing is marketing to some extent. And so I am just trying and testing all the different methods. So I have a TikTok that does fairly well for other people's books a lot of the time, which I love. Because so what do I do? I have a series on TikTok where, because I'm also a big gamer. So I'll say, if you love this game, check out this book. And that series has done quite well. And several of the videos have gone quite viral. None of the videos about my books. But I'm still, you know what I mean, getting the word out about books that I love. So I'm still here for it. And then I also get the comments on those videos that I love, where it's someone that's like, oh my God, I haven't read a book since high school, but I love Halo. So I decided to read this book and I loved it. And now I'm back into reading. And I'm like, yes, bringing them back into the fold of book nerds. I love it. So that's been fun. But I'm not sure how well it's, you know what I mean, doing for my own books. Obviously SFF Addicts. Adrian, he likes to say he pimps my books. He pimps my books every episode. You know, Adrian, he's the best. So, you know, hopefully that helps introduce it to a new audience. I think a lot of it, and it's part of the reason why I think, you know, a large factor, at least in traditional publishing, as to whether or not a book like hits lists or whatever, is how much publisher support the book has, is because a lot of it is just about people being aware that the book exists. You know, that's why I think so many great books are so slept on. And it's not because people have looked at them. And I think that's the hard thing as an author, right? Where you're like, my book isn't selling, it must mean it sucks. No, it likely just means that people don't know about it, so they're not looking for it. So yeah, I think, I mean, my approach so far has just been try to introduce the topic of the book to as many people as possible, and then hopefully the right ones will look for more information about the book, and you know, maybe they'll be interested. So yeah, I don't know if it works, but that's what I'm doing.
So just casting a wide net kind of at this point.
100%. Well, and also trying to learn from other authors. So like, you know, Adrian and I had Ryan Cahill on a while ago, earlier this year. And God, you guys know, Ryan Cahill is like the master of book marketing.
Yes.
Like, he's a genius.
Yes.
And so I was, you know, literally taking notes, like physically the whole time we're talking to him. And so like, since we talked to him, I wrote a novelette, and I'm offering it for free on my website if you sign up for my newsletter, which is what he did. So, right. So if you'd like to read a very D&D inspired comedy adventure about a disastrous wizard on my website, it's available for free, and I will forget to email you for months because I don't know how to run a newsletter. But yeah, like, you know what I mean? It's just things like that, where he was like, you know, once you have your newsletter, you can start directly communicating with your audience, with the readers that are most likely to engage with your books anyways. And that is much more effective and more personal and feels better to me than, you know, trying to scattershot stuff out there. So I'm trying to do a little bit more stuff like that as well. But yeah, it's trial and error for me so far.
That makes complete sense. I feel like it would be trial and error for anyone, you know, who's just trying to, like you said, just get it to the right audience, because there's an audience for everything out there. So, and it sounds like to me, maybe you'll have to slip your own book into that series you do on TikTok and just don't mention, you know, just forget that it's yours.
Right? Like,
just slip it in there and be like,
don't look at my handle that it also says MJ Kuhn. Just don't even.
If you like these games, what about this book? You know?
Right? Why don't you check out this one?
That is awesome. And you know what? Since you've been talking, you and Taylor, it reminds me, I apologize, I was totally negligent in introducing you. Of course, you are an international best-selling author. But, however, I did neglect another big part of what you do, and is that you are a very popular and well-known podcaster with SFF Addicts Podcast, and co-host with the wonderful Adrian M. Gibson, who we actually had on the previous page showing, of course, for episode 50. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do there? Please.
Yeah, it's so fun. So Adrian invited me to join. So basically, Adrian is the brains behind SFF Addicts. I'm just going to be very clear. I am hopefully a helper, and I'm along for the ride. But so he started the podcast. It's his baby. In addition to his two actual babies. But he started the podcast, and then he actually had me on as a guest, like probably about October last year, maybe. And then we were having a good time. We were vibing, you know, just in conversation. And then afterwards he reached out and was like, hey, I've actually been thinking about switching up the format of the show, and I've been wanting to bring on a co-host, and I was wondering if you'd be interested. And I was like, sure. Like, why not? Like, how fun. I love nerding out about books. And so I would get to nerd out about books, just and talk to fun authors. And oh my God, amazing. I love it. Plus it forces me to actually get through the books on my TBR because like I'll try to finish them before the
Universal
author comes
problem.
on. I'm like, oh, well, and I'm like such an aggressive mood reader too, that like I will just, I think of every time I approach my bookshelf, it's like when you walk to the fridge and open it when you know you're hungry, but you don't know what you want. Like that's how I feel every time I finish a book, where I'm like, I want to read something, but what do I want to read? And now I have like some
Okay,
guidance.
you are speaking to my soul right now because I just went to an English bookstore for the first time in years,
Yeah.
being in the States.
Yeah.
And I went in, I was like, wait a minute. I can read any of these. Like it
Right.
took me
There's so many
by
choices.
surprise almost. Like, what do I do? So
Kid in the candy
I know
store.
that
I love
feeling
that.
intimately. I know it intimately.
Yes. Well, I love it. So yeah, for the podcast, so for people that are watching this that aren't familiar with SFF Addicts, if you missed last episode with Adrian, so the format of our show is we have 2-part episodes, and we release every week. So part one is an interview with the author where we sit them down, we talk about their projects, we talk about them as a person, and just very regular podcast interview stuff. And then part 2 of every episode with the author is Adrian and I sit down and we think about something that author does super well, like something we are like, oh my God, this person is a master of X, and then we pick their brain about it. We call it our mini master classes. And so these are the ones that are like literally I'm like taking notes on the side while we're interviewing them because I'm learning so much. I'm learning so much about how other people do what they do and how they make their own books great. And I'm so excited to maybe I can leverage some of this information to make my own books better as I continue to grow as a writer. So yeah, that's what we do on SFF Addicts, and it's a really good time.
Yeah, you do some phenomenal stuff. Everyone, please check out that on YouTube. The TBR Con, like some of the stuff that folks have done has just been phenomenal. The panels and playing D&D live, and it's just all like just awesome stuff. So please, like, check that stuff out. It's absolutely amazing. And it's funny how we were talking about that. It always makes me think about myself and Taylor, how all these collaborations just happen kind of like out of the blue. It's like, wasn't planning to do this, but hey, you're awesome, so do you want to do this with me? Sure. And then suddenly things just take off. Like
I love that though, because then that's my thing. It's been like my it's been like my motto for the last like year or so is just like just say yes to stuff, like opportunities for book life things, because I'm a pretty risk averse person. And I'm trying to I am trying to cast a wide net. I'm trying to do whatever I can to make this writing career work for me. And so yeah, that's how I ended up partnering with Adrian. It's how I actually went to Seattle to do like a bunch of book stuff because like literally like the a bookshop events coordinator like DM'd me on Instagram at like 10 o'clock at night and was like, I'm putting together this panel. I know it's a long shot, but do you want to come? And I was like, yeah. Like, sure. Well, I looked up flight prices first, to be clear. I found a pretty cheap one and I was like, yeah, I'll come to Seattle. So yeah, I think that is like a big thing where it's like, if you just like start saying yes to stuff that, might feel like a little scary or a little like something you might have reflexively said no to, you can like awaken some pretty cool opportunities, which is really cool.
100%. And something that I've really learned from being a part of Page Chewing, not only was it serendipitous that I kind of got brought into the fold, because I'm very much like you, where I was brought into the fold last, and I'm delighted to be part of it. But not only is that kind of serendipitous, when you decide to just say, why not? Let me just reach out to this author that I would never in a million years think would answer me. Most of the time they do. And it's just you not asking that is made
holding
it
you
not
back.
A possibility.
Well, I always say like you would be shocked at how many people will agree to come on a podcast if you just ask them. Or I mean, like this quote right here, like that's just I just sent him a DM on Instagram. I was like, hey, do you want to blurb my book for me? And thinking like, what's the worst that could happen? And he was like,
Yeah.
sure. Okay. But like, you don't know if you don't ask. So yeah, it is scary to ask, but like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and just like you said, the worst that they can say is no. And most of the time, it won't be like, "How dare you ask me?" It's like, "Oh,
Right.
I'm
It's
I'm
like,
not
oh, my
available. I'm really
schedule's
sorry."
full. I'm in a
Yeah.
media hiatus right now. Yeah, yeah. Everyone's so cool. But that's the thing about the book world is I feel like book people are just cool people, man. Like book
Mhm.
people are chill. They're all so kind. And like even like we had Christopher Paolini on our podcast, and it's like that's a huge name. He's incredibly famous. Like I've been a giant fan of this man since he wasn't yet a man. And I was a child reading his books, right? He's like the nicest guy. Like just like so chill, so willing to just chat with us. Yeah, I love the book community. It's incredible.
I wonder if part of that is because in order to really be involved in the book world, whether it's traditional publishing or indie, you have to be passionate because it's not a moneymaker for most people. You have to, it's just not.
We
Not
wish.
everyone can be Ryan Cahill, and that's fine, to bring up what we were talking about earlier, but there's many other people who love books that can't be at the top there. And so it's full of passionate people who, like us, just want to talk about it.
Yeah,
And that
absolutely.
includes booktube, that includes book talk, all of those things. I wonder if that has to do with it. I imagine it does, with people being so chill and willing to talk.
Yeah, I think so. We're all just cool nerds. I think that's it.
Yeah.
What's up to
Oh my
Daniel,
gosh.
friend of the channel? And yeah, he comments, when Daniel Green, a huge booktuber in the booktube community, probably near the upper echelon, Amy
I
Pellini,
think
he
that's
then
safe to say.
Green and put it on his own channel as an author interview.
Yeah, I
Wow,
love that.
that's awesome.
Like just the authors or, book folks supporting book folks. It's such a, I don't know, symbiotic environment. I don't know. I love it. I love it.
It is. Because while I say that not everyone can be the tippy top, it's not that it's not a zero-sum game, with everyone
Right.
supporting each other to get up there.
Yes.
So.
That is the biggest thing too, because I think, in some aspects of a lot of businesses and whatever, it is a zero-sum game, and it's like a sale for you means no sale for me. But like that's so not true with books because like we all buy multiple books, and if you love that book, oh my god, well then you'll love my book, and if you love my book, oh my god, you need to read this person's book because it's so good. You know what I mean? So I think that it's a different kind of business environment or whatever, which is great.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it. And even if my book is totally not like that book, but that book's still a great book, but this book is different, you might like that book. And
Right.
I totally agree. Totally agree. So I mean, we have to start delving into what your books are actually about, MJ. So can you talk to us about the Thieves Duology? What it's about, why someone would want to read it. Can you give us a bit of a pitch there?
I would love to. So for the Thieves Duology, it is it's a fantasy heist story. And we follow 6 thieves that are teaming up in the first book to steal a magical artifact, which I actually just had tattooed onto my flesh 2 days ago. Yeah, this is my tattoo artist's rendering of the quill that is the thing they're after in the book, which is so exciting.
I was going to say that looked fresh when your arm was up earlier.
Oh, she fresh. She's very fresh. She is covered in aquaphor right now. But yeah, so the 6 thieves are teaming up to go after this artifact, and the twist though is every single member of our heist team has their own reasons and motivations that they need to screw over the rest of the team and take the loot for themselves. So, and it's written in multi-perspective, so that's important to note. I know some people love multi-POV. I love multi-POV. Some people hate it. So there's 5 POVs in the story. And it's because I wanted to get into each character's head and show you their motivations, not just that they're planning to betray everyone, but why they feel that's their only option. So every character is kind of backed into a corner. And they feel that like, if I don't get the quill for myself, it's all over for me, right? So yeah, that's book 1. And then book 2 picks up right after the end of book 1. So it's been really hard to promote book 2 because I can't really talk about it without spoiling the end of book 1. but yeah, it features, we have a couple new characters, a lot of the old crew, and there's, new alliances, new betrayals, new heists, and they're, up to their old shenanigans and a bunch of new ones. So that's the Tales of some more Duology in a nutshell.
That sounds absolutely awesome. Awesome. Sign me up. Like I said, I would have had it with me and probably snuck. Sometimes, like I'm not really a mood leader, but sometimes, you get those books that you just go, I gotta kind of dip into this now and, put the rest aside for later. Sometimes it happens, I think, to the most disciplined TBR readers, it happens, right? So I think that's what happened with your books. So I'm getting this vibe with, is there sounds like there may be some a bit of found family there too. And, I love heist books are awesome, right? So is that also something that's present? I guess, bit of found family sounds like some obviously backstabbing, betrayal and stuff like that too, but that's part of it?
I call it the most toxic found family in all of fantasy. Because, it is actually, I wish I could remember the exact quote. So, Marshall Moore is another author, and he reviewed the book. And one of the things that he said about it was that he loves reading about this group of people that are terrible people, but they are, inadvertently forcing each other to care about each other or whatever. And that really is what it is. It's a bunch of very broken people who really are used to looking out for number one and only looking out for number one, and developing these kind of complicated interpersonal relationships as they realize that they're starting to care about these people that they are actively planning to screw over. So yes, it definitely is found family vibes. Just not, roses and sunshine found family.
There's so many buzzwords in there for me. I love heists. I love found family. Those are two of my favorite tropes. So
same, girl.
So you may have found the audience here. There's a successful connection there.
Successful marketing. Nailed it.
Perfect. But when you talk about how it's difficult to market book 2 because it continues after book 1, and it sounds like book 1 has a lot of intricate plot lines and, like you said, backstabbiness. So I've heard PL talk about this before, where the difference between writing book 1 and book 2, and how book 2, correct me if I'm wrong, PL, but I believe you said that was more of a challenge for you, was writing book 2, because you had the expectations of what people loved from book 1, but trying to ramp it up, to the next level. And it sounds like with something that has such a twisty plot line like yours, that would have some unique challenges when writing the sequel, I would imagine.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Well, okay, first of all, I kind of cheated a little bit because so book 1 was supposed to come out in 2020. I signed the book deal for it in 2019. And I was writing the sequel immediately. And then book 1 got pushed back a full year because of COVID, blah, 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 the election, everything, the world being on fire in 2020. So it didn't end up coming out until not even 2021, but late 2021. So I had book 2 completely written before book 1 even came out. So which was challenging for me in the sense that then I didn't have, actually, I wasn't under contract for it. I was working with my publisher to basically show them that there was enough of an audience for book 1 that it warranted a book 2, which was a different challenge and had some different stressors. But I got to write the whole book without seeing how people had reacted to book 1 at all, which was a big advantage. And the more authors that I talked to that came out with a book 2, the more I realized how big of an advantage that was, because I didn't have that little voice from that 1-star review that we all read our reviews in the beginning, and it's so toxic, and we have to, though, right? It's the sickness. But I didn't have that 1-star review voice in my head, right, as I was writing book 2, which was a big advantage, I think, for me. But it was challenging because I wanted to keep the vibes and the energy and the twistiness and the intricate machinations the same, but as tends to happen as series go on, the story and the world is expanding. The stakes are higher and a little more, not necessarily totally global, well, pretty global for book 2, versus a little bit smaller or more close to home stakes from book 1. So it was challenging, but I, for anyone that's watched SFF Addicts, when we talk about anything plotting, outlining, whatever, I'm an obsessive plotter. I plot my books in Microsoft Excel. uh, so that made it a little easier because, what I'm able to do is really see all the different elements of the plot and how they line up and make sure that I'm touching on all of the subplots and the character arcs enough before I actually get words on the page and make it all messy. Because we all know the idea is perfect and shiny until you start drafting and then you ruin it and then you fix it and it's fine. But that's always how it goes.
You are in good company with PL. He is a planner as well for his books, I know.
Yeah, definitely. But yet, what I love about you, MJ, is that I can all see your personality, the spontaneity and the ability to go, oh, I'm gonna do this. I feel like doing this, and that's awesome. And which makes me wonder, just when you speak, like, was there ever a concept originally for the series to either be a standalone, or perhaps you're gonna stretch it out to a trilogy? Because I find duologies, like we had Tessa Gratton on, New York Times bestselling author, on page 24, and I love her duology, and you don't see a lot of duologies, especially in fantasy. You see a lot of series, and some of them really big series.
Right, 12-book series.
Yeah, you see predominantly trilogies. Trilogies is probably, you see standalones and shorts, but you rarely see duologies. So can you talk a bit about what went into that, and why a duology? Or could there perhaps be a follow-up and turn into trilogy? Because that's happened too. I was like, yep, this is duology, especially in India. It's like, oh, I really need to finish the story, so here's book 3 and 4.
Just kidding.
Just kidding. Psych.
Yeah. So I always planned it as a duology, like right from the beginning, which actually my publisher billed book 1 as a standalone initially, which, as I've already said, it ends on a cliffhanger. So like a lot of people were understandably really frustrated when they got to the end and they were like, this is a standalone, how? And I was like, it's not. I'm just in the middle of negotiations trying to make sure I could tell you the rest of the story. I'm sorry. But yeah, I always wanted it to be a duology. I think for me, so I'm a mood reader and I have like pretty bad ADHD. So sticking with a long series or even a trilogy, I'm like infamous for not finishing series, even if I love them. Just because I get distracted and then I want to read something else. And then I come back and I can't remember what happened in the first few books. And then I fall off. It's sickness. It's awful. I know. But for me, it was like, okay, with a duology, I get the chance to explore a little bit more meat than I might be able to in just a standalone. But it's still pretty short and digestible. Also, I kind of had it in my mind that I wanted Among Thieves and Thick as Thieves to be able to be kind of like someone's gateway to fantasy. So like the magic system is pretty simple. It's very character driven. It's very fast paced. It's meant to read. It's kind of more like young adult pacing, right? Versus kind of like a lot of really intense world building and stuff, especially in book 1. So I felt like a duology might be, if someone used to reading more thrillers or, you know what I mean? Something that's not fantasy, but they're interested in bridging into fantasy and sci-fi. I was like, okay, well, this is like kind of the intersection between crime fiction and fantasy because we have a heist. Maybe we can like bring some people into the nerd fold with this. And I felt like a duology maybe would facilitate that. I don't know. That's it.
That's awesome. Now, do you prefer a specific length for you personally for fantasy series? Do you prefer standalones? Do you like develop, like, what's your preferred as a reader now? What do you prefer reading in terms of length of a fantasy series?
I feel like I go back and forth. So lately, I have very much been digging the standalone life, or reading book 1 of series, loving it, talking about how much I love it, and then not reading book 2. Like, okay, I literally just, so like 2 books ago for my reading list, I just read Old Man's War by John Scalzi. Loved it. So good. I literally own book 2. It's on my shelf. Did I pick it up after I finished reading book 1? Of course not, because that would make too much sense. Oh, of course not. It ends on like kind of a note where like you want to know what happens next. And still I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just a chaos reader. It's okay. Where I'm finding that I'm actually starting series and finishing them reliably is on my audiobook reading list. So for that one, because I'm like, I'll listen to it while I'm driving, I'll listen to it while I'm at the gym, or like while I'm out walking. And it is, I feel like, I don't know, for some reason it's easier in an audiobook to just be like, oh, next book, boop, and click over to, I don't know. My brain doesn't make sense. It's okay.
Well, I can certainly sympathize with it when it comes to TV shows. I'm notorious for not finishing TV shows. I'll binge like a whole season in one night, love it, won't touch it
Yeah.
for months, So
See, you get it. It's like
I did that exact thing with
yesterday.
Schitt's Creek. Yeah.
Today's a new day. It's not hitting today.
Yes, and even though I loved it, there's no good explanation for it. It just is what it is.
Yep.
So I feel you on that. Yes. So since you kind of bounce around with your reads, do you find that this is kind of a very odd specific question, but something that's around BookTube a lot is TBRs based on seasons or based on vibes, right? So do you find that you're like a seasonal reader? Maybe you're into lighter things, or you like to read more romantasy or whatever in the summer, and then in the winter you're into longer reads, or is it just complete whatever you feel that day for you?
Well, it's definitely not lighter reads in the summer, because I've been joking that I'm not having a hot girl summer. I'm having a goth girl summer, because I've read like 6 books in a row about death. Like not on purpose, but like I read Under the Whispering Door. I read The Midnight Library. I'm reading Scythe right now. It's like I'm like literally just reading all books about death, not on purpose. It keeps happening. But yeah, I actually, like, I say I have a TBR, and like I do, but like to me, TBR is like a state of mind. More so than like a real list that appears anywhere. Because I mean, I own the books. They're either there, or they're in my Kindle library, or they're on my audiobook library. And whenever I finish it, so I'm also always reading 3 books at the same time. Chaos gremlin, I know. But I always have a physical read, an ebook read, and an audiobook read. So then no matter what environment I'm in or the situation, I can always read something. And so whenever I finish one, I pick a new one in that format. But I just pick it based on, I don't know, energy. And then here's the thing too, because I'm such a mood reader, frequently I'll pick up a book and I'll read the first like 3 chapters and I'll be like, this is really good. I don't want to read this right now. And so I put it down, and I'm not DNFing. It's like a temporary DNF. I'm like setting it aside, and I'll pick it up again, maybe next month. I don't know. So yeah, I don't have a good answer. I'm not organized.
There's nothing that's necessarily a good answer. I was just curious, because that's very much a thing, on BookTube, where people who are mood readers are like, I'm in this mood now, so I'm going to do this. Yeah. But I'm the same. I usually have 3 books at the same time for the exact same reason, because I need to have access no matter where I am. Even if you're not going to have time to read, you put the book in your purse. Okay. I'm that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So
I'm going to meet a friend or whatever. I'll bring a book in my purse. And then like, if I get to the bar before them, I can maybe read a little bit
a chapter.
Yeah. I'm a cool kid, guys. Reading at the bar.
I'm also guilty of doing that. So I love it. Okay, so right now your mood is death and destruction, things like that.
Apparently so.
Right?
Yeah. For better or for worse.
Yeah. So have you read anything recently that's really just wowed you? That you're just
I'm
like,
on a
everyone needs to read this.
Really good streak. So well, like Under the Whispering Door and Midnight Library both made me cry. No, I'm not a big crier. Like Adrian knows this. We joke that I'm dead inside. Like I just emotion makes me super uncomfortable. So I'm not usually a big crier. Both of those books made me cry though. So those were both very good. I mean, Old Man's War was fantastic. Scythe that I'm reading right now is really good. I'm reading Theft of Swords, so I'm finally getting into the Rhaenyra Chronicles on audiobook right now. And the book is great, and the narrator is fantastic. So if anyone is out there looking to get into Rhaenyra and is a little intimidated because they chonky, check it out on audio. The narrator is really great, and the book it's worth it. So good. yeah, I'm in a good streak right now of like pretty much everything I've picked up lately. Because, you know, you go through slumps where it's like you pick up stuff and you're like, oh, this just isn't for me, or this isn't for me right now.
Yep.
For some reason, lately, I'm just like pounding them out, finishing out my whole list that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, soft DNFs are very valid. You know, when you pick up something, you're like, this is good. It's just not what I'm looking for right now. And I think that's pretty important, especially when you engage with books in a review capacity, right? Because you need to
Yes.
know your own taste or your own mood and just be like, I don't think I'm going to do this book justice, you know, when I review it, if
Yeah.
it's not for me right now. So I'm kind of curious also, you are in so many parts of the book world, as we've talked about. But are you also, do you consider yourself part of the review space as well in an official capacity? Or like, you know, both PL and I are on Before We Go blog and we write reviews there, part of SFF, that kind of thing. So do you dabble in that world as well? Hi, Drew.
Right. Hello, Drew. So I don't consider myself a reviewer at all. I love reviewers. I love book review blogs, and I love people that do consistent reviews. I I am a very, I don't know, generous reader. I think it's because I'm a very strict DNFer, because like I'm a big fan of like, if you don't love the book or you don't love it right now or whatever, don't force yourself to read it. I think that's why so many people that haven't picked up a book since high school think they hate reading, because the last time they read, they were forced to read and finish and take tests on the book, and if it wasn't what they wanted to, this is why they think they don't enjoy reading, right? So why make it a chore? Just have fun with it. So pretty much any book I finish, you look at my Goodreads, I don't think I have a single review on there that's not 5 stars that I've given. Because if I finished the book, I liked it. And like, I'm not a person that's like, I'm going to save my 5 stars for only my absolute favorite reads, which like, that's a totally valid way to review. And I love that. I get it. There's no wrong way to review. For me, I'm like, oh, I finished it. I liked it. I would lend it to a friend. I don't know, whatever. 5 stars. Good job. Gold star. Author, you nailed it. So I think it's like impossible for me to be a reviewer, because nobody would trust my reviews, because they're just like all nice.
No, but you know, we've talked about that, Taylor and I, with other authors, and Taylor and I both being reviewers as well. Like, I mean, I have gotten to a point in my life, and I'm old now, that I select books that I'm 90% sure are gonna be 5-star reads. And if I don't think they're gonna be, guess what? I don't put them on my TBR. I don't even
Yeah.
look at them. And so that means most of my reviews are predominantly 4 and 5-star reads. So now, could that look suspect to someone who's reading my reviews? I guess. But I can't be concerned about that, really, because if I just pick all good books, because I know ahead of time these are probably going to be good books. Like if Taylor recommends you a book, says, PL, this is a 5-star read. Okay, I'm going to put my PBR, and my expectation is going to be, because I trust Taylor's opinion, I know her taste, and we're somewhat similar, it's probably a 5-star read. So I read the book, it's a 5-star. You know, so if I keep doing that over and over again, rinse and repeat, my Goodreads reviews are going 5 stars. Like,
we're just good at picking books. I like that take. We're just good at picking what we like.
Yeah,
we know ourselves. We have high levels of emotional intelligence, PL.
Yeah, I like it. I like
we are aware of our taste.
We are self-aware.
I think that's really important as a reviewer, even if you don't do it in a professional capacity, just knowing, you know, if something, just explaining in a review, even if something was a 1-star for you, you're like, this is a 1-star because XYZ. And then someone else might be like, well, XYZ is my favorite. So
that's what I literally always say. There's value in, well, I guess the people that are, you know, if someone's just being a troll or whatever, like outliers, people reviewing in good faith, there's value in every review for the author, even because like my example always is a couple years ago, I saw a review of actually Six of Crows. It was a 1-star review, and it said, nobody in this book is a good guy. And I was like, oh, heck yeah, that's literally that 1-star review is why I picked up Six of Crows. So, you know, and then for myself, like, you know, I don't look at my own reviews anymore, but I some early ones for Among Thieves, I remember being devastated because, of course, you know, it's your first book baby, and you've let your fledgling little child out into the world, and it's getting 1 stars, and you're like, no. But a few of those 1-star reviews were people who had been recommended the book because people said it was like Throne of Glass. by Sarah J. Maas. And I'm always perplexed when I see that comp. I think it's because we have like a main character who is a lot of it morally gray, and she's an assassin and she's female, and she's a little bit snarky, right? So we got a little bit of comp there, but it is not romantasy. Among Thieves is not romantasy at all. So if someone 1 stars it and says, "This, I thought this was going to be like, hey Bill," but yes, I agree with you, Bill. They can be so helpful. And like, if someone said, okay, this is a 1 star for me because I thought it was going to be like Throne of Glass, and there's no romantasy. Well, maybe someone who kind of liked Throne of, like me, right? A reader like me that was like, oh, well, I like Throne of Glass, but like romantasy is not really my thing. Maybe they see that 1 star and go, oh, maybe I should check out this book. Versus someone else who saw someone else comp it to Throne of Glass, but loves romantasy, sees that 1 star, and then they save their money. And they don't pick up a book that's not going to be right for them. I think it's all a win.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. It's funny you're saying that because I think, and having, I've read, when I heard about your book first, a long time ago, I'd heard a lot of that comparison to both books you mentioned, Throne of Glass and Six of Crows. So
Yeah.
a lot of that, and that's a good thing because those are pretty popular books, right?
Right. It's always so confusing because, okay, the Six of Crows comp, I am like a little more like, okay, yes, Six of Crows fans, there's I think they'll find a lot of common ground. Liza Block-Lamora fans, I hope, will find a lot of common ground because that was like a big inspiration for me. That was like the inspiration for me to write these books, was the Gentleman Bastard series. But
the more you speak, the more excited
yeah,
I am.
You're not exactly digging yourself a hole here, MJ. We're like,
I'm digging myself
bring this on.
Of all time.
Yes.
So
well, okay, so the story world in Among Thieves is called Tamor, which is a not so subtle call to Kamor, the city from Liza Block-Lamora, because I wanted to put it in there because it was such a big inspiration for me. But yeah, so like, but Six of Crows, even, right, it's a fantasy heist, it's an ensemble cast, right? Like, it's young adult, but like I feel like it's close enough that could be a good comp. But yeah, the Throne of Glass, I'm always like nervous when I see that comp because yeah, would I love to tap into Sarah J. Maas's monster audience? Sure. However, I know that most of her monster audience, not most, but at least a good portion of her monster audience probably doesn't really fit in the Venn diagram circle between our interests, right? So yeah, it does make me nervous that it might draw in people that just won't like it. And then, it's a sad time for both of us. But you can't control it, right?
Yeah.
Do you find that after talking to other authors in the podcast space that's changed your perspective, the way that you view your books and your reviews, just hearing other people, maybe more established authors and like ones that have been writing for years and years and years? Do you find that talking to them helps you get a new perspective, or have you just been kind of going with the flow?
I feel like I've been mostly going with the flow. I think so there's pros and cons to every publication path. I think a pro of going the trad path is my skin is Teflon. I mean, it probably is true for indie too, honestly. But I just know like there were so many years where like I could not even get the time of day from I've been writing seriously for almost 10 years now. And I, Among Thieves only just came out in 2021, right? So it's been a long time of there were many punches to the ground before that book came out. So, I think the more you get into it, the more you start to realize that everyone has an opinion and you don't have to agree with them and you don't have to disagree with them, and just don't engage with them. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not your space. The reviews are not your space. So yeah, I think everyone has a different view on reviews. I've heard some people that religiously read their reviews and use them as feedback. And that sounds terrifying to me, but that's valid. If that's the approach you want to use. Most of the authors I know just try not to read their own reviews and just really don't end up engaging with them. But one piece of advice that I will give to authors out there, if you are just putting your first book out, or if you've put several books out, but you're still reading bad reviews and they're still getting you down, because that's, it happens. When you're feeling sad about your own bad reviews, go on a book that blew your mind, made you feel like, I am the worst writer in the world. I will never write anything this good. I have such imposter syndrome. This book is just amazing. And read their 1-star reviews. not as like a vindictive thing, but just as like a reminder of like, somebody hates everything. Somebody hates everything. Nothing is for everyone. There is no piece of art. That's the beautiful thing about art. It's interpretive. There's no piece of art in the world that is universal. And if there was, it would be like the equivalent of like vanilla, right? Like it's not, some people have to hate you for it to be like art, I think. So that's my advice.
That's fantastic advice. I mentioned this, Taylor and I talked about this on previous page chewing. Joe Abercrombie, I mean, mind you, he is a huge fan. He does, I wouldn't do it, but he takes his 1-star reviews and he just puts them up and just, makes fun of, I mean, just not just the fact that he got a 1-star review, but makes fun of the content.
Yeah, well, I saw, oh God, I forget what other author it was. Or actually, no, here's a better example because I actually remember what it was. I saw a bunch of people posting like screenshots of tweets that are negative reviews of the Barbie movie that were like, nothing has made me want to see a movie more than these bad reviews of this movie, right? So I have seen authors do that before, right? Where they take a thing where it's like, oh, this is feminist drivel. And then, you know what I mean? Oh, feminist drivel. Oh, well, perfect. My audience will love feminist shit. So they will come and hang out with me, right? So, yeah, I think that's fun.
That is awesome. Just say a quick hi to Shad Zaman, friend of the channel. Hey, Shad, thanks for stopping by. Always great to see you. So, Shad is awesome. So you talked a bit about, I mean, Taylor and I are like, Scott Lynch, we're sold, right? That was one of the big inspirations for your. So tell us a bit about MJ's favorite authors. What were some of the other influences? Did you grow up wanting to become a fantasy author? If that's something you thought you were going to do, like, what are some of the books, some of the writers? What are some of the present day influences and writers that you're like, okay, wow, this is like great stuff. Like what? How about those?
I love it. I feel like, well, first of all, I feel like every single book I read or show I watch, video game I play, movie I see, influences me, my taste, my own writing style, because we're all just sponges, right? For everything and everything. You're all constantly growing and changing as a human, and experiences in life too, right? Not just media. So all of it is influences. For early influences, so I always say, so this was my gateway to fantasy. And also when I realized I wanted to write, I was obsessed with the Redwall books as a kid. Oh, Redwall, giant Brian Jocks. Yes. Taylor, you with me?
Yes. Are we? What is happening?
I think we're vibing. We are the same person.
I'm taken aback.
You guys secretly related or something? Like cousins?
We're long lost.
It
relatives.
seems like it.
Yes, but the Redwall books are so good.
Yes, the Redwall books. I did bless my little 6th grade heart. I did a project where I drew the map from it, and no one else in the class read the books and knew what I was talking about, but I was determined to share Redwall with the world.
I love it so much. Also, we should have been friends as children because me and my friends, we were cool kids. That's sarcasm. We were not, but we were fun. Okay. We like made up names for ourselves that sounded like we were animals from Redwall, and at recess in like elementary school, we would pretend that we were like in the long patrol or like, oh my God. Yeah. We were super cool, but we had a great time. Okay. But yeah, so I was obsessed with that. And like the first like books or stories that I wrote were like basically Redwall fan fiction. I'm like writing them on notebook paper in like the 5th grade. Right. So definite early influence. Other early influences. So actually Christopher Paolini. So the Aragon books, I was obsessed. I mean, I'm still obsessed. I reread them recently and they're still so good. Yeah, those were some early ones. Also though, lately I've been reading such good stuff lately. I've been like hitting a vibe. So I just finished the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. Masterclass in character, right? I'm like, God, I want to study everything this man does about character building. He's a wizard. He's amazing. So good. And then obviously Nicholas Eames. So Kings of the Wild. Kings of the Wild is like one of my favorite books that I've read. And I feel like the duality of humor and heart is something that I could really learn, and anyone could really learn from that book. There's parts of the Kings of the Wild where literally I'm laughing out loud, sitting and reading. And there were parts when it was like tugging on your heartstrings, right? It's like an amazing masterclass in all of the above. And then, recently I just read Old Man's War. Man, I need to write a space opera. I swear to God, I'm gonna write a space opera someday. I'm so obsessed with Mass Effect is my favorite video game franchise of all time, minus Andromeda. We don't talk about Andromeda. But so like between that and then reading Old Man's War, and then I recently have read the Divide series by Jenny Dewis. Like I need to write a space opera. Anyways, yeah, those are some of the influences. They're all so good. Adrian, hello, my bestie.
Big shout out to Adrian, the wonderful Adrian M. Gibson. He is a fantastic person. Hope you're doing well, Adrian. And yeah, it was so great to have him on the show as well. So
he's the best.
Yeah. Also, Daniel comments, if you like Redwall and are a Grimdark fan, I strongly recommend that you read The Builders by Daniel Polensky. The short pitch is Grimdark Redwall. It's a standalone, shorter than 250 pages.
I would say you had me at Grimdark Redwall, but then you had me again at standalone, and then you had me again that's shorter than 250 pages. Yup.
Oh, thanks, Daniel. That sounds like a great rec, Daniel. We really appreciate that one. Thank you. And we have our friend Shad, who says, I've read Among Thieves too. I read a couple of years. It's very good read. He says it's very, very good. So,
well, thank you for reading it. I'm glad you liked it.
So, like, and I mean, for me, I've never read Redwall. I feel very deficient now that I've never read it growing up. And I mean, we all have our influences and things that we went to. But I know for me, like, I feel like, especially amongst fantasy readers, there's readers that they love the tried and true classical stuff, and that's what they read. And because a lot of the classical stuff are these big mammoth series, and reading The Wheel of Time is an investment of years, right? Unless you're a super reader like the Esme Rosales,
right? I'm on book 3. I'm it's one of my ones where I like come back to it every once in a while. I'm reading Wheel of Time. You have to, right? But like, I have not made it all the way through Wheel of Time yet.
yeah. Those are big books, and like and now I've started to try and read, especially because of Tim's influence, Brandon Sanderson stuff. I've started reading Steven Erikson. These are huge and they're chonkers. It takes you can spend your life just reading.
They're like 1,000-page books.
Yeah, pretty well reading all those series. So, is there ever a temptation though? I think for you, MJ, to write like this, massive magnum opus, just because supposedly, number one, they sell, and that everybody says fantasy, write a series because that's what's going to get you your numbers, right? A big long ass series. Is that a temptation for you to do that at some point, to write like some big, or is it not? And not that it has to be. I'm just curious.
Yeah. So that's the thing. I like to say never say never. It's like, people will ask like, what genre will you never write? And I'm always like, contemporary romance. I don't think I ever will. However, I'm never going to say never. Like, who knows? What if I'm like 45 randomly? I get the greatest idea and I'm in a reading streak where I'm reading a bunch of contemporary romance, and you know what I mean? Like, your brain changes, your life changes. I don't know. So at this point in time, I don't think that's where I'm going. I love good long fantasy series. Oh my gosh, like, Game of Thrones. I even like Wheel of Time, reading through that. I mean, I like I said, I'm in a bit of a more standalone phase right now, but man, oh man, the books of Babel. I mean, like, God, I mean, there's so many, those are only like quartets and stuff, but like, there's a lot of good long chunky series. Stormlight Archives, obviously. How did I not say that one already? But when I signed with the agent that I have right now, the moment I realized that when she like emailed me to offer rep, and then we talked on the phone, and I was like, yes, I need to sign with this woman. She gets me, like, she gets what I'm trying to do with my career, was when she said, I love how accessible these books are, how it's accessible fantasy. So pretty much everything that I've written so far is like less than 150,000 words. So it's going to be hitting 400 pages or less, 450, something like that. And it's meant to be crushable, like that you could just sit and read it in a sitting. It's not meant to be super intricate magic system, Brandon Sanderson-esque. because there's obviously a gigantic audience for that, and I am a part of that gigantic audience. But that's not the whole audience of fantasy, right? There's so many readers of fantasy. And I feel like too, at least for myself, after I finish a big doorstopper or a long series or something, I kind of want like a palate cleanser, almost something a little bit lighter, something a little less intense. So that's at this point in my career, that's what I'm trying to write, is like fantasy that feels full, and with a world that feels complete, and with characters that feel fully realized, but that your grandma could pick up and read and get the vibes of, right? Like that's at this point in my career, that's what I'm trying to do. So
I think that that's so important to also recognize that those books can be 5 stars as well. I think there's a tendency in the fantasy community to view them as only palate cleansers. So you'll hear a lot of people talk about the heavy hitters, like the Wheel of Times and the Stormlight Archives, which again, I am part of that, very much part of that audience. But I think there's a tendency to, I don't think gatekeeping is the right word here, although there is a lot of that. I do think there's a tendency to say, like, if these are 5 stars, then this book can't be. And I think I really like seeing books that reach across genres in the way that you talked about, the way that yours kind of do. For example, Piranesi. I love that book. But if you ask me what genre it is, I have no idea.
No.
It's
surrealism? I don't know.
It's fantasy, kind of, sort of, maybe a little bit, but that book was 5 stars for me. And it was exactly what I needed between the larger series. So I think, the way that people talk about books like yours needs to change a little bit, because I think there's this kind of view of like, it's got to be a doorstopper to be a 5-star in the series. So I really appreciate what you're doing, and the way that you talk about it, I think, is really important, because those books can very much be 5 stars,
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm just like, I feel like fantasy is for everyone, and so is sci-fi. And I mean, obviously, like, not everyone has to read it, but like, to me, I think when I talk to people that like reading but will not touch fantasy sci-fi, it's because they think all fantasy is Wheel of Time and all sci-fi is Dune. There's obviously nothing wrong with the Wheel of Time, and there's nothing wrong with Dune. However, that is just like one facet of these genres. So yeah, I think that having a variety of different voices and like vibes in the genres can only help grow our community and like bring more cool people into the cool nerd fold. And that's what we want.
That's awesome. No, totally agree with what you and Taylor have said. And Judd just concurs that First Law is amazing, and that he's happy to hear that you loved it, MJ.
The chapter, The Circle. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh my God. Masterclass in pacing and tension. Oh,
yeah.
I was actually afraid that I wasn't going to like it, because I read the first book and I was like, this is okay. And I think it was one of those moments where I think the hype was detrimental instead of good for it, because I was so ready for just for everything
to just be blown away immediately. Well, and here's the thing is, I think with First Law is it is, and this is going to come across, it's not that it doesn't have a plot. It's just that the plot isn't the point. The point is the characters. And so I think that for me, it took me a full book, which was the first book in the series, to warm up to that idea, right? Like I loved Glokta immediately. I was immediately this is my guy. This is my boy. Hated Jazal immediately, but that
you're meant to.
You're supposed to. Well, I'm glad I was supposed to, because I actually, Adrian, it might have been you that I texted. I can't remember who I texted, but I literally texted someone and I was like 50 pages into the first book, and I was like, am I supposed to like Jazal and hate Glokta? Because I don't. On either front. I love the torturer and I hate the hero guy. Like, what the heck? But yeah, I think it took me a little bit to warm up to the idea of like, oh no, we're really just like following these characters and like seeing how they turn out. And like, yeah, there's a plot, but like there really isn't much of a plot, capital P plot, at least in book 1 for sure. Yeah, so I'm with you, Taylor. It took me a minute to be like, ooh, I don't know how I feel about this.
I was scared. And I think the thing for me with Giselle as well, again, not surprised that we have the same opinion, but it wasn't that I hated him. It was that I couldn't stand to read from his perspective. Maybe because I hated him so much. Maybe that's where
Being
it was coming.
inside
But
his
every time
brain.
his chapter came up, I was like, can we not? You know,
Right?
so, but then I read the second book and I was like, oh, this is what people are talking about. So
yeah.
you know, I'm in the fold now.
now we're trapped. There's no getting out. I've heard that
Right.
the what is it, best served cold and stuff. It's coming up on my list again, my non-existent list, because I've heard they're even better than the first Law trilogy. So super excited.
I have the second, the Age of Madness. I have it all on my shelf. I haven't gotten to it. The first Law is just one of my favorite series. It's just awesome. And yeah, Taylor says all the time. It's funny. I agree. Like, yeah, no plot. Like, yeah, like. I feel like, and I'm very much a character-driven reader, and it didn't matter to me. Like it did.
Yeah.
After a while, it's like I didn't care where this was going. I just wanted to read what these people were doing and how
You're
messed
just
up they
hanging
were.
out with the characters, and that's
Yeah.
I love that. I think that it's like a good,
Sorry,
I don't know, indicator of there is no one right way to write a book, right? Like there's all these people that give you the formula and give you, you know, you got your Save the Cat and like all this stuff. And there's nothing wrong with studying that. You should. It's great as a writer to learn those things. But like sometimes the stuff that breaks the rules ends up being dope. Like, you know, who knows?
Bill mentions, thanks, Daniel. Just looked it up and added to my TBR now. The shorter page count, an enticement for me too. Yeah, lots of people, like you said, MJ, 100%. Like, okay, don't want to read a doorstop right now. Can we get something that's a bit
250 pages, grimdark Redwall. Oh, I'm in. Which, for the record, Redwall is like pretty grim for children too. If you go back and reread it as an adult, which I did, I was like, I mean, it still slaps. It's still good.
And the way that the evil like character dies in the first book, I was like, oh my god.
Right. I was like, oh my god, I read this at like 9. Like maybe it explains like why I am the way I am.
Daniel says that he's a big pusher of the Builders. I haven't read it since it came out, though it'd be funny if I reread it and it was like, oh, I actually don't like this that much after all.
Oh my god, I love that.
That's awesome. And Bill
I
says
understand
I
that feeling too. That's just a risk of recommending books because you're like, I loved this book. Oh no, what if I don't love it upon reread?
Right.
Rereads are dangerous.
Or like if you're
rereads are dangerous. Yeah.
I also like to say my skull is just full of bees at this point. Like I don't have a brain anymore because like as soon as I finish a book, I don't remember what I just read. I'll be like, oh my god, this book is so good. You have to read it. And then people will be like, what's it about? And I'll be like, I don't know. But it was so good. You have to read it. So yeah, that's my vibe.
Wow. Yeah, Bill made through book 10 in Wheel of Time. Needs to finish. I understand the slog near the end of the series. Daniel's like, I doubt it, though. Most people have been happy with it.
So the Builders. Most people are digging it.
Builders. And Shad says, I love long book and series. A huge fan, classic fan. Yep, I can't lie. I am too. But, you know, it's nice to break it up sometimes, right? Because it can feel overwhelming. You know, when you get to, I mean, I haven't gotten through Stormlight. I'm, starting to get into Malazan, same thing. But it's like, it can be daunting, right? Yeah. When you look and you're like, I'm only 2 books in deep of 11.
Right. Well, it can almost feel like starting to like write or edit a book, right? Like it's almost the same feeling where it's like you're trying to like, eat the whole, what is that? Eat the whole horse in one bite or whatever, something like that, whatever the saying is. And so if you do look at the whole series, it's like, I can't ever finish this whole thing. It can be overwhelming.
No, definitely. Bill, A Spindle Splintered, the novella by Alex D. Harrow. That's a very popular author. Was that kind of palate cleanser for me. Really loving shorter fantasy series these days. Yeah, good point. Good point there. And Daniel says, boy, you stopped the least eventful book in the entire series.
Oh, for book 10 of Wheel of Time.
Yeah, I think that's the book everybody calls The Slog. I think, or is it a couple books before that? I can't remember.
I don't remember exactly which one, but it's somewhere between 7 and 10.
Yeah, Wheel of Times, please correct me. I that the experts here. So yeah, so one of those books is supposed to be The Slog. So, and JBJ says, hey, JBJ, great fan of the channel, great guy. Bill Bloom, I feel the same way. No offense meant to like your John Kingdom, So I'm still chewing through, which audiobooks less than 10 hours seems much easier. Yeah, no, I write chonkers too, right? I write, 400, 500 book word, 500 page books,
Yeah.
mass market paperback size. And, for a lot of people, that's a lot, right? So you read 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 of those in a row. Okay. And even if you're reading, you read my book and then you stop and you read another book in series, you come back and you're reading all these it's a lot. So that's a lot.
I think there's something to looking at the amount of hours on an audiobook versus a page count. Because when I reread part of the Stormlight Archive, I did it via audiobook. And let me tell you, when I saw that 35-hour number, I was like, wow, somehow this feels more daunting than the page count, because it's telling me exactly how much time I'm going to spend of my life listening to this.
Reading to it. I know, although I always listen on 2x speed or more.
Yeah.
So it's but I remember so Adrian and I had Ronnie Beardy on our show, and so we were reading First Binding. It's a 40-hour audiobook. Literally 40 hours. It's really good. But
yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I was gonna pick that up. First Binding. It's a huge chonker.
Oh, she chonky, but it's really good. But I texted Adrian as soon as I downloaded it, and I was like, really, Ronnie, 40? Because it does. When you see it in hours, it's like, oh my God, this is literally almost 2 full days it's going to take me to read this if I sat and read it all the way through, But anyway.
And Shad said he's reading Dresden Files, a series I haven't got to, but it's a long, but I don't think the books are that big, but a very long series.
There's a lot of them. Yeah, I haven't picked them up yet either. I'm going to soon though, because we're planning on talking to Jim Butcher.
Hey, that's huge. That is huge. Oh, congrats.
So, yeah. Congrats. But I haven't read any Dresden yet. All I've read is Cinder Spires, which the first book is really good. But I'm excited to dive into Dresden. I've heard so many good things about it. So, and my sister's a huge fan of Jim Butcher, so I'm like, I'll just go borrow the books from you.
Yeah, our friend Philip
Chase, got them all.
Friend of the channel, he's always raving about Dresden. So yeah, absolutely. And Chad said, yep, even though it's a long series.
It's a long series, yeah.
And JBJ says, my last reread was Ready Player One. So as a gamer, MJ, you may appreciate that. I can only imagine re-listening to another book though, honestly. And Bill says, it's probably book 10. Wheel of Time, we're way back to now.
So that is the slog.
Yeah. Book 10 the slog. Insanely boring. Part of why it's stalled. And then Shad said, yep, slog is usually book 7 to 10.
That's so long to read for a slog. 3 entire or 4 books, right?
Yeah.
7, 8, 9, and 10 of.
And 4 books of probably 500, 600, 700, 800 pages.
That's a lot to ask.
That's commitment. I don't know if I have that in me.
Yeah, Daniel says the slog is generally accepted as 7 to 10 with Wheel of Time, as 10 being the worst. 11 is returned to form, which is great since it was Jordan's last one. That's right. He sadly passed away. But then Mr. Sanderson, I believe, took up the torch after that. So it was like a 40-hour audiobook. Holy moly.
That was literally my reaction right there. I think I didn't say moly. I think I said something a little more explicit, but
that's okay.
Well, speaking of long audiobooks, I'm curious if either of you have heard of this. I really want to start The Wandering Inn. So that is an extremely long, audiobook. It's just, and I think it was at first a web serial or something.
Because it's a lit RPG, isn't it? I've heard about it. I've heard it's really good. I haven't checked it out yet, but this is the third time someone's mentioned it to me in the last month. So maybe it's my sign.
It's been on my the external portion of my TBR, if you know what I mean by that, for a long time. It's been orbiting. So.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Jamie says, also hi PL. Oh crap, I totally agree about audiobooks. I kind of regret getting the looming fantasy audiobooks for the reason of that listening trek, let alone an audio Bible, which our Verdi's book sounds like it is. Bill says, if you're going to aim for the Dresden books, aim for the audiobooks. James Masters is the main reason. I guess that's the audiobook narrator. I made as deep as I did into the series. His reading is stellar.
Love that. A good audiobook narrator, man, can change the whole vibe, enhance everything. Oh, I love it. Stormlight. I know we talked about how long the audiobooks are, but the narrators are great on that.
Oh, awesome.
Michael Kramer, yeah.
Yeah. Darren says a lot of cool stuff does happen to Slog. It seems to drag because there's no attention to pacing at all. It's just a single story that stops occasionally because the book is over. Oh my gosh, that sounds rough. That does not encourage me.
That's a really great advertisement for those.
For the time. 40 hours short compared to the foul book of memories. Oh, memory stories. And I've read the first 2 books of King of Oxnard, which the follow-up series I didn't read. Memory stories. Loving it. Tad Williams, great guy. He was on Page Chewing as well. But yeah, he writes some chonkers and very, very character driven. But still, I mean, if you love it, you love it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, long or short, if you're into the book, it's not gonna matter.
I love that. Yeah, if you're along for the ride, you're along for it for 60 hours, I guess.
60 hours long. Wow, Shad, that's crazy. JB says this doesn't help that I go between music discoveries, audiobooks, podcasts. So you should be checking out SFF Addicts Podcast. Then JBJ, like this one sometimes, and creepypasta narrations, which can range from 15 minutes to 2 hours. And then
that comment actually brings up a question that I have for you, MJ, because I'm wondering how you balance everything, because reading is time consuming. We're talking about these long series, 4-book slogs. And even if you're not reading those, reading is a time consuming hobby because you have to focus on that thing specifically. Yeah. But not only that, you're helping with SFF, you're a co-host for that, you're an author, and you said you have, marketing, day job. So what do you do to balance all of these things that you do?
I don't balance it well. No. It's all trial and error. Again, it's a lot of finding what works. I carve out a lot of time to read, evenings for sure, weekends for sure, and then anything I can get on audiobook, I try to get on audiobook, which a lot of the time, the tricky thing for the podcast is a lot of what we're reading are arcs, so it's really rare to have an audio arc. But so most of the time I'm trying to get everything I can on audio so I can listen to it while I'm working out, so I can still, get active as well. Or if I have tasks at work at my day job that are kind of tedious, that don't require, you know what I mean? Like I do a lot of writing for my day job too, but sometimes I do different tasks like number crunching, stuff like that, where I could listen to an audiobook while I work. I'll try to do that and double dip a little bit, but it's really hard to fit everything in. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, I've definitely experienced a feeling of overwhelm. I'm not an author myself, but you can kind of slot content creation for BookTube into that space for me.
100% you can. Well, and even reviewing, there's so much writing involved in reviewing. These beautiful reviews that reviewers write where it's so many pages. It's a whole blog post and a half, which means you have to not just read the book, but read it and really pay attention and pull those things out, which takes so much more time. Yeah.
It really does. PL's reviews are awesome, by the way. Anyone watching needs to check his out. I aspire to write that level of review.
No, not at all. Yours are fabulous too, Taylor. I'm loving your book reviews, and I am very excited that hopefully one day I'll be able to post a review of MJ's books when I finally get them in my hand. Come on, chapters, do better, chapters. MJ's books should be in every store in the country.
Right? Stock 1 million copies, please.
Yeah.
We'll write him a letter. Let him know.
Yeah, there you go. I have no ulterior motive here.
None. Well, listen, we want to respect your time. We know you're really busy. MJ, it's been so awesome to have you on. This has been fantastic. Loving the conversation. We just want to just kind of give you a chance to just let everybody know where they can find you all over the social media, YouTube, book space, etc. About your word about your books, and everything you're doing. So maybe give you a chance to do that as we're wrapping up.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere. I'm on all the socials: TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, X, whatever, and then all the Twitter replacements, right? Thread, Blue Sky, Mastodon, whatever. Everywhere I'm at MJ Kuhn Books. You can also just go to my website, mjkuhn.com. which if you go there, there's also some like cool stuff. So I have you can sign up for my newsletter and get that free novelette, The Sham Wizard of Golden Dawn. Or you can check out I have a map. So there is no map printed in Among Thieves and Thick as Thieves. My publisher decided not to do a map, but I said, I love maps. So I hired a cartographer and I got a map done. So it's available for free on my website. There is also a recipe for the official Among Thieves cocktail available on my website, cocktail or mocktail. So you can do it either way. So yeah, there's all kinds of fun stuff on there. You can check it out. And then also SFF Addicts. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram and Threads. And then also on YouTube, we are under the FanFi Addicts umbrella on YouTube. So you can watch all of our interviews in full video there. But yeah, that's where I'm everywhere on the internet. I'm too many places. You can't get rid of me.
Well, my wonderful and talented co-host Taylor, once again, happy birthday and thanks for being here once again. Would you like to talk about where people can find you all over the place in this space?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm so happy to be here and to finally meet MJ. So thank you for joining us. You can find me beside PL on this channel or on my channel, Made Between the Pages for page chewing. Very often you'll see me there. You can also find any of my other content on Made Between the Pages. And actually what MJ just said there, that there's a cocktail connected with her books, makes me very excited because there's a series I have on my channel before I got pregnant called BookTube Bartender, where I made cocktails for characters and served them as if I was their bartender. And I'm thinking,
oh my God, so fun.
We're going to have to do a collaboration because I can now have some dranky dranks now that I am past that part of my child journey. So we'll be talking about that.
Yeah, get in touch. That sounds so fun.
Yeah. But you can find content like that as well as full reviews over on my channel. You can also find written reviews of mine, which I'm starting to get back into now, over on Before We Go blog, where I am an assistant editor. It's run by Beth Tabler, and I am also a SPIFFO 9 judge. So I'm working my way through those books now, and you can find my official reviews for those over on Before We Go blog. If you want reviews in a less official capacity, sometimes where I just, put my feelings out and leave it at that, you can also find me on Goodreads. And I think that's everything. Any other socials you can find in the description of my videos. So
that is awesome. And I have to plug Taylor's Made in Transit channel. It is just I didn't realize that you had just her journey in terms of living in Japan and how she got there and how that's transitioned. It's just fascinating stuff. And the Japan vlog stuff on her regular channel as well, maybe 2 pages. There's stuff you're gonna love. So I just quickly want to it is amazing. It is amazing it's really fascinating stuff. I just want a quick shout out to Shad. Thanks a lot that he said my reviews are great. So I appreciate that. Thank you. It's nice to be recognized. As Taylor said, for me, most time you can find me on Taylor's channel with page chewing. Also, Before We Go blog as well, as Taylor mentioned. I'm also an assistant editor and also an SPFBO judge. So our reviews can be seen on Before We Go blog and on Goodreads. I do post. I try to post reviews for every book I read on Goodreads. For my books, The Drowned Kingdom Saga, www.plstore.com. 3 books out right now. The 4th book, A Lion's Pride, I'm currently working feverishly on. That will be coming out in the spring of 2024. Just a quick little drop, and because I wanted to thank her publicly that normally, like MJ was talking about getting people to blurb your books, I normally select 4 people who are dear to me and who appreciate the series to put their endorsements on the cover, and I've selected Taylor. She's been my selection. She was kind enough to say yes for Lion's Pride. I'm very honored that I will have her words on the cover. Hopefully she likes it. So I guess she won't put anything there if she doesn't. But yeah. So
the honor is mine, and I'm sure I will. So
yeah, but that's where you can find me. Twitter, or what's left of it, Exeter. I don't know what you call it now, but yeah, at PL Stewart Writes. And same for Instagram and Facebook. I'm not there as much as I have in the past, but I think that's going to change. As these social media spheres kind of
Twitter
evolve.
Continues to die.
Look, I can't keep up with it anymore. There's DM limits now. I
know.
Yeah.
He wants to crash and burn. It's the only thing.
I don't know. My only hope is that eventually, all these social media spaces, typically they've changed hands over the years, and in the future, who knows who's even running it, what they do with it. For now, I'm hanging in there. But anyways, yeah, that's where you find me. Once again, such a huge thank you to MJ Kuhn, again, international bestselling author. Go buy her books, The Thieves Duology. I will be so to get my hands on them. Frustrated that I couldn't. There you go. Look at those covers; they're awesome. And obviously, go check out SFF Addicts Podcast with her and the awesome Adrian Gibson and all that they do over there on that channel. So, yeah. But anyways, thank you so much for everyone who joined the chat and all your great comments and questions. We really appreciate it. That really makes, all these Patreon episodes phenomenal, interactive, and we really appreciate it. Thank you for checking us out. So that's it. And I guess next time we're on to page chewing 52. So please join us for that. And once again, check out MJ and her books. All right. So we're signing off.
Guys.
Thanks for joining us. Take care, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye now. All the best.